The following podcast contains spoilers for small soldiers and the innocents. You have been warned.
Welcome back, everybody, to KFR News Radio. This is your host, Glenjamin Barton, and here with his other host is Miguel Megosto.
Hello. How are you, Glenn?
I'm peachy dandy. It's a nice
That's
sunny
good.
day outside
That's
in the
good.
world, and I'm in here, all
Are-
inside and shit.
Are you ready for your trivia question of the week?
Bring it on, Michael.
How many Oscars did Mad Max Fury Road pick up in February of 2016? Now, pick up means win or won, not nominated for.
That's tough. It was nominated for a lot.
I will give you a hint. Once I pull up their IMDb page, I will give you the amount that it was nominated for. Hopefully that will help you. It was nominated for 10.
There wasn't multiple choice on this card?
There is multiple choice,
but you wanted the nominated.
I want to see. I want to see if you know how many there is. Just off the top of your head, 10 nominations. How many wins? I do have multiple choice if you want to go there.
Is 4?
Ooh, no. Okay, your options are 3, 5, 6, or 8.
I like how it avoided every number that I said.
Which was one number.
Straight up said, we're going to say 3, skip the one he fucking said, go 5, and then 6. Was it 5?
No, it's 6.
Damn.
You know what? Not everyone can be as great as these cards, I guess.
That's the first one I missed, actually. Not that they've been hard, but...
Yeah. So how you been?
Again, I've been dandy, peachy, all sorts of fantastical.
That's good. Any movies worth noting?
Bet your ass. This time I did.
Ooh.
This time I did. We did not have internet at house. I want to say Glenn, but I'll probably get whipped for that. We did not have any internet here, so I got to watch some movies without Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime, all that shit. I had to use my own personal collection.
What?
I know. So I decided, you know what? We're gonna start watching a series. It's not a movie, it's a series. I mean, there's other movies, but I started watching for the first time ever Avatar: The Last Airbender. Yeah. I'm almost a season deep already. It's actually way better than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I've only seen a few episodes, but I remember it being pretty good.
That's how I was too. I was like, I've seen a few episodes back in the day, but not like enough to be like, well, I'm definitely interested in this.
Yeah.
I was never interested in it. But now, because Amazon was like, here, you can have this whole series for $12 Blu-ray. I'm like, duh, thanks. So I started watching that. And then, of course, for movies, I decided to take a peek over to Clint Eastwood, A Fistful of Dollars.
Ooh.
I have the Man with No Name trilogy, so I'll get to those later, but I watched that first one.
Yeah, I have the same trilogy. I've seen them all. What'd you think of that?
Actually, really enjoyed it.
I'd have to rewatch it. I feel like I wasn't in the right mindset, because the only one of the three I really enjoyed was The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
That's the one that like everybody loves.
Yeah. So I'd have to watch Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More just to see if I still feel, underwhelmed by them. But yeah, definitely worth a rewatch.
Yeah, it was a good movie. Were they speaking Italian in that movie? And is that why Clint Eastwood's the only one that wasn't really dubbed?
Yes, so
okay, that makes so much
they're
sense.
Sergio Leone movies. They're what you call spaghetti westerns, which are westerns made in Italy. So pretty much everyone but Clint Eastwood was Italian.
It was throwing me off real hard.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong about this, I'm pretty sure he spoke Italian in the actual filming of it, because I do believe like the original language is Italian, and then it was just dubbed over here. And because he actually is American, he dubbed his own dialogue, which is why it's kind of harder to tell than the other ones.
I'd say, because his didn't seem off at all.
Yeah.
Unless he's just really good at dubbing. I don't know.
He might be. He also kind of just talks with his mouth closed for the most part. So.
That's true. That's also true.
Yeah.
My next movie is really just a short film. It's a prequel to a movie that I thoroughly enjoy, and as it might be a hot take that no one else loves. This one's going to be called Van Helsing: The London Assignment. It was an animated short film. Basically, if you bought the game, I think that you'd get this short film to watch. It being a prequel leading up to the movie itself. It was okay. It's nothing. It's pretty much what you'd expect from getting something with a video game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Hugh Jackman himself voiced Van Helsing in the short film.
How old is that short film?
2004, so it came out when the movie came out.
Okay, so that was probably he probably recorded that before it bombed hard.
Probably.
Which I mean, it's not a great movie, but you know.
Yeah, and then the hot take is I watched Van Helsing because I ordered it for $5 Steelbook Blu-ray. I was like, fucking yes, give me that. I will admit it's super goddamn campy and everything like that. But I love that movie. I love that movie so much.
I haven't seen it since it was in theaters, so I might have to revisit it. How Did This Get Made just did an episode on it where it was torn to shreds.
Yeah, I have no doubts that it most likely shouldn't have been made. I'm one of those people who love it. Also for me, it's still for my whole life since I've seen this movie, this has been my opinion that it still, to me, has my favorite werewolf interpretation of it. Because the werewolves in that movie just look awesome. But that's me. A lot of people don't have that same opinion, obviously, considering it's got a 2.5 here on Letterboxd.
Yeah. Anything else from this week?
That is it. That is it so far.
Well, I saw a few movies. I saw the first one. I saw Us for the fourth time right after we recorded last week's episode. Yeah, but other than that. I watched Dumbo, the Tim Burton live action remake.
Tim Burton did that?
Yeah, it kind of made me sad because I feel like he's just kind of. It's not just this movie. His past like 4 or 5 movies have seemed very uninspired, and I think I don't know. Like it just screams that he's in like a depressive state.
Weird.
And, like he's
That's really just Dumbo for you.
Well, no, it's just like it just wasn't.
I know.
It wasn't as inspiring as his other movies have been. It just kind of felt like he was going through the motions, just kind of doing exactly what Disney wanted, maybe with a little bit of his style, but not nearly enough to, make it super obvious that it's him. And it's just kind of, I don't know. I hope he kind of gets back into his. His unique style, because it's
that would be nice. Everything from the 90s from him was just spectacular.
Yeah, and then you got Big Fish. Big Fish is fantastic. I know a lot of people don't like musicals, but Sweeney Todd is fantastic.
I still haven't seen that.
It's great.
I was supposed to see it when a friend of ours was in a play of it, but that didn't happen. I was like, well, it's not gonna lose any life for me if I don't see it.
Yeah, but I then the following day after I watched that, I watched Pet Sematary. With
how was that?
It's not bad. It's not.
I was debating on seeing it.
It's a good movie. It's nothing to text home about, as we like to say. It's just a lot of it is just kind of John Lithgow is definitely the best part of it, and
I had mentioned it to my boss over at Regal. I was like, I kind of want to see Pet Sematary. He looked at me, took off his glasses like in that very high maintenance fashion. I was like, why the hell would you want to see Pet Sematary? I was like, well, I mean, it's got Jason Clarke in it, John Lithgow, so there's that, and it can't be any worse, hopefully, than the first one.
I haven't seen the first one.
I haven't either, but
I'm
I assume
it's
that
not
it wasn't
that good.
great.
Yeah, it doesn't look that great. This one, at least, was decent. I didn't hate it.
See, the problem with their recent trailer of it, the last one they made, threw me off. I was like, okay. I've seen the whole movie now. I know what the plot's going to be.
Yeah. But, it's definitely worth a look. Maybe not in theaters unless you see it at your Regal and you can see it for free. But Yeah. Then I saw Shazam last night.
Ooh.
Which, funny, is directed by the guy who directed Lights Out, and
Really?
and one of the Annabelle prequel.
Did he redeem himself?
It's a fantastic movie, honestly. Like
Whoa.
I loved it.
Miguel Magusto here with a first. He liked a superhero movie, everyone. Round of applause.
It kind of just made fun of superhero movies.
I don't doubt it.
It was more reminiscent of like, I don't know. It was. You could tell they had fun with it, and I feel like a lot of movies they don't have fun with anymore. It's like superhero movies are just going through the motions.
This was their perfect opportunity to do that too.
A lot darker than I thought it was going to be. Mark Strong's character, his power comes from the 7 deadly sins.
Oh.
So there's like a bunch of demons in it and shit, which is completely obvious why they got David F. Sandberg to direct it, because he directed a bunch of horror movies.
Yeah.
But then it also, just has a lot of fun with it, and it's really entertaining. So
Okay.
I highly suggest you see it.
Yeah, we were going to see it Friday, but never got around to it. And then Saturday came, and then we were like, well, still not getting to it. This is actually the only DC movie that I've actually cared to want to see, because we totally skipped Aquaman. That's the first time I missed the superhero movie in theaters.
I saw Aquaman, but for everything I liked about Aquaman, I hated 2 more things. So it was not good, but not bad, if that makes sense. More bad than good, but also not terrible.
I don't want to say that this movie's going to redeem the DC universe, but I mean, it does look like
Honestly,
it's got its handful of fun.
It doesn't even feel like it's in the DC universe in a good way. I mean, the movie takes place in Philadelphia, which I wasn't even aware existed in the DC universe.
It does not. Does it actually literally take place in Philly?
It takes place in Philly. It wasn't shot in Philly, but it takes place in Philly.
Interesting.
But they did a really good job. It was shot mostly in Ontario, and they did a really good job at making it seem like it was Philly, because there was definitely parts where, like, they have the climax of the scene takes place in an area that looks a lot like Penn's Landing.
And they didn't get M. Night Shyamalan to make this movie?
They did not get M. Night Shyamalan. One of the fights happens on I-95, right near... Or maybe it's the Schuylkill Expressway. But either way, it's like one of the major highways, and it looks like it's definitely green screened, but it definitely they did a really good job at mixing like random gas stations in Ontario that could be in Philly, and then green screen where they inserted parts of Philly into it, and they shot it part of it at the Philadelphia Art Museum, referenced Rocky a lot, which is funny.
That's weird.
Yeah, and that part they actually shot at the art museum. You could tell it wasn't green screen or anything, but it was still pretty cool.
I do want to look up where Shazam actually usually does take place. It's definitely not in Philly, because
I'm sure there's some super nerd out there that cares that it doesn't take place in Central City.
It does say here, an orphanage in Philadelphia.
Oh, well, there you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Case closed, goddammit, Glenn.
But other than that, the only 2 movies I watched, 2 other movies I watched, were the ones for this episode.
The only thing I do want to say before we close that out is, wasn't Dwayne Johnson supposed to play Black Adam? And like that was like the biggest confusion that I've ever had, because Black Adam is like Shazam's like arch nemesis.
I have no idea. You would know more than me.
Maybe there'll be like another fucking Justice League movie against Black Adam, and Dwayne Johnson will be like, "Oh, I've got muscles." I don't know. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah,
2 movies that we saw.
2 movies. So let's start with the epic drama, Small Soldiers.
Globotech Defense System. In a secret lab, the world's most advanced military microprocessor has been created. But the Cold War is over. For Globotech to survive, new markets must be found. Now, all that power has been placed into the brain of a fighting machine unlike any known to man. They made it strong, They made it clever. They made it small. They made a mistake.
Major Chip Hazard reporting for duty, sir.
Wow, voice activated.
Commandos, 10 cuts.
Small Soldiers, made in 1998. When missile technology is used to enhance toy action figures, the toys soon begin to take their battle programming too seriously. Directed by Joe Dante, written by Gavin Scott, Adam Rifkin, and like 3 other people. Stars Kirsten Dunst, Gregory Smith, David Cross, and a whole lot of people. Tommy Lee Jones, freaking everybody is in this. Jay Moore, got Dennis Leary. Who Kevin Dunn? Who don't you want to be in this? Oh, Phil Hartman.
Phil Hartman, rest in power.
Rest in power. I don't know why I whisper a lot in this.
I don't know.
Weird.
But yeah, this is the first time I've seen it since it was in theaters in 1998. So this was a nice trip down memory lane for me. Surprisingly, I remembered a lot of it.
Same. Yeah. Mainly, the things that I remembered were the soundtrack.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I can't sing any more than that. We'll get copyrighted.
Yeah. But this was, I know this wasn't a great movie, but it was a lot more fun than I remember.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, I really enjoyed it when I was a kid, but, like, looking back as an adult, I was like, man, that movie probably is terrible now. But then I watched it. It was a lot more fun than I remember it being.
It's so creative.
Yeah, it really is.
It's insanely creative. Like, you think, oh, this is just like a kind of a kid's movie. Imagine Toy Story that's rated R. Now imagine Chucky that's rated PG-13. Now, take all that, you got Small Soldiers.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so creative. It's insane.
Yeah, it is. It was just really fun to watch. You know, it's definitely a movie, unfortunately, that they can't make anymore because
absolutely not.
It's people nowadays like realism way too fucking much to the point where people are like asking for, just to use a movie today for us, is like, where do they get the jumpsuits? Does it really fucking matter where they got the jumpsuits in us? Like, just fucking watch a movie. Suspension of disbelief, man.
Just do it. Just get over it.
This is definitely something that could not be made today because people would be like, well, why is a weapons company making toys? Which is definitely a question I asked.
Which they explain in the beginning, too.
Yeah, they explain it. Not well, but they explain they explain it, and I just feel like audiences now too much thrive on being smarter than a movie. But then they go ahead and love fucking Marvel movies, which are dumber than shit. I mean, I still enjoy them.
How did they explode and get all those powers? I don't know. Spider bit that dude.
How did Thanos snap with a metal glove on? You can't snap with a metal glove on. It's impossible. But it's.
But he's got the glove. He can make it snap. It's the reality stone. I'll argue this like.
It's people don't like fun anymore unless it's Marvel, in which they lose their shit, and even Marvel has stopped being fun.
Turn your brain off for.
Yeah,
but
Marvel has stopped being fun too, and just has tried to be too real in the wrong ways.
Yeah, even I've said I've kind of grown tired of some Marvel movies.
Yeah, and that's you. You love that shit.
I love Marvel movies.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, it was very creative. You could tell that the one thing I miss about today's movies is seeing like really creative robotics and animatronics created that I could just tell the special effects team had fun with, the animatronics team. And this just seemed like they picked people from the show Robot Wars and had them make a lot of robots, which was
for real. They were like, here, take all these household appliances and make anything you possibly can with it.
Yeah.
Because everything, like, you look at it, the RC cars, the helicopters, just even the soldiers that are action figures, they all have household appliances, like stuff you'd find there that the small soldiers would actually make And it's so creative, and that's why I was saying it's so creative, because like you're looking at these things and you're like, somebody put a lot of thought into all this.
The thing that was probably, I don't want to say annoying, but most like super 90s was the writing. They had like the most painful exposition. Like one thing I hated. I mean, I understand why it's a kids movie. It's PG-13, but it's essentially a kids movie. And they have that part where David Cross and Jay Moore are given super private passwords, and David Cross laughs. It's like, mine's Gizmo. And then they cut directly to Jay Moore forgetting his, and he goes, what's my password? What's my password?
And what's funny is he put it in his shirt pocket, and then checks his shirt pocket, and it's not there.
Yeah, so I'm sure there's a cut scene there, but it's just filled with that kind of exposition, which, you know, kind of gets annoying, but it's charming in a way since it's super 90s.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know, for 90s, child acting today has gotten so much better, because I feel like
so much better.
Because I feel like kid actors nowadays actually take it seriously. Like the kid from Shazam, whose name is escaping me, it's like Dylan
Or even that, and Jacob Tremblay, or anybody you want to really...
Yeah, they take it seriously. They are actually, you know, decent actors, even for kids. While the acting in this wasn't great, it was better than other 90s movies I've seen. I mean, you got Kirsten Dunst, who's made a career out of acting, so she's definitely had some skill.
And I would also like to say, I would argue that this is a better kiss than Spider-Man.
Which one?
You know the one.
The one where he, like, grabs her head?
Yep.
And
he's like, come here, babe. Not the upside down shit. That's not romantic. We've seen that in Spider-Man.
Yeah. But it's I think Gregory Smith, who plays Alan, the main kid in this, he did a decent job as well. I loved all of the voices for the toys. You have Tommy Lee Jones as Chip Hazard, which, you know, flew over my head as a kid, but goddamn if that's not foreshadowing in that name. A micro Chip Hazard. Then you have Frank Langella for Archer, who's the main Gorgon. Bruce Dern as Link Static, which I didn't recognize his voice at all.
Most of these you wouldn't recognize.
Yeah, I mean, they were definitely doing voices, but you have Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, Harry Shearer, people that you would recognize, but they definitely changed their voice enough. But definitely Frank Langella as the main Gorgon and Tommy Lee Jones were definitely, you could tell it was them.
Yeah, there was one that I didn't really care for voice acting wise, and it's because, you know, it was like Punch It, the big rhino looking dude. They made him sound like more like Frankenstein than they did the actual Frankenstein action figure looking guy.
Yeah.
Whose name I'm not even going to remember.
Freakenstein. Yeah.
I don't know. That threw me off a little bit. I was like, why do they got two people sounding like Frankenstein a little bit? Or Igor or whatever. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that threw me off. That's the only thing that really I didn't care for. But other than that, everybody was great.
Yeah. I think they did a surprisingly decent job at using foreshadowing and kind of just coming back to things that I mentioned. Most notably, the satellite. Like, the satellite is introduced in the first act when Phil Hartman's character is trying to get it set up, and then it essentially becomes the thing that saves the Gorgons in the end from getting fried from the electromagnetic pulse. And you know, that's something that was, I mean, it's your typical storyline. It's basic storytelling, but yeah, it's not something I expected from this kind of movie.
I did not. What else can we really say?
Yeah.
It's a PG-13 movie from the 90s. The soundtrack was horrifically 90s. There's some 80s music in there too, which was unexpected a little bit. But it's a good throwback.
Absolutely.
For just a random. It definitely, I don't want to say it holds up, but it holds up better than I expected to.
Yes. I was expecting to just roll my eyes the entire time, and I was actually enjoying it. You know, I was interested the whole time. Phil Hartman plays a delightful jackass like he normally does.
I love how Phil Hartman, he just like, when he says like lines, he'll be like, well, here's the deal. And then he like stretches out the last line.
Ready to spring into action.
Butch Meat Hook, prepared to go to distance.
Hit Nitro, demolition.
Kip Killigan, sharp as a razor. You are the best of the best.
Heartland Play Systems.
I'm having trouble with the Commando Elite. It's like they're alive.
Let's roll some armor. We got us a war to win.
The few.
We have met the enemy. He is big. He is fat. Yeah.
The proud.
He has revealed a weakness.
Alan, please, you have to help.
Major Chip Hazard wants a war. We'll give him a war.
The small.
Who you calling small?
This summer,
Babes at 12 o'clock.
join the Commando Elite.
Gentlemen, those are reinforcements. Commandos, attack! No mercy!
Incoming!
Small soldiers.
Command post to Brick Bazooka, report.
It's just a flesh wound, sir.
You have to be crazy not to be scared.
This movie, I think, is actually dedicated to him because he died 2 months before it came out.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately, you know, in the murder-suicide, which is, honestly, he died before I knew who he was, and I still didn't really know who he was after Small Soldiers.
Yeah.
But when I was like 16 or 17, I really got into his work on news radio and SNL and stuff like that. And I was just, I watched his stuff not knowing he was dead. I was like, hey, what has he done lately? And I saw he died in 98, and then I read up on it, and it just absolutely destroyed me.
Yeah, I think I found out around like 2011 or so.
Yeah, because he was a fantastic comedy talent, and one of the funniest people, and he just seemed like from all interviews I've seen where people talk about him, he's just you know. He was just like a loving guy, and to die the way that he did is very tragic.
Yeah.
Especially since, you know, I don't know if you know much about it, but his wife was essentially clean. She had a cocaine addiction, and then she was essentially clean, and then she kind of fell off the wagon, unfortunately because of Andy Dick, and then one day just killed him in his sleep and then killed herself. But
well, now that we're all sad and stuff, do you rest in power? Obviously.
Rest in power, Phil Hartman.
I guess that's the best segue we could go for the next movie.
Yeah. So keeping on the downward spiral of depression, let's get into The Innocents.
Potrzebuję pomocy. Ma lat. Polonez.
Tutaj tylko Francuzi.
Femme va mourir.
Combien d'entre vous sont dans cet état?
7. Pour nous, quand ils ont fait irruption dans notre couvent, cela a été une horreur.
Jesus Christ.
That's probably the best way we could have done it.
That is not.
Hey, speaking of soldiers, here's some soldiers and
that
bad
is
things
not
happening.
what I was expecting, but I kind of just wanted to get into Phil Hartman just because it is an interesting but tragic story.
It is.
So anyway, The Innocents, directed by Anne Fontaine, written by Sabrina Corinne, Alice Vial, Anne Fontaine, Pascal Bon Itzer, and Philippe Menaille.
I love these moments when you can't pronounce anything.
You shut your mouth right now. Starring Lou Delaga, Agata Buzek, Agata Kuletsa, Vincent, you shut your face, Vincent McCain, and Joanna Kulig. The Innocents tells a story of a convent in 1945. Mathilde is a French Red Cross doctor working on a mission to help French survivors of the German camps. While she works in Poland, she is asked to help by a nun. In her convent, several nuns got pregnant. And as you find out later, not by their own choice. And essentially, this movie is about how terrible Russians are. Yeah.
Or just people are, for that matter.
Yeah, people.
But
they
definitely
they go on Russians a lot.
The Russians in this scenario.
But yeah, it's what can we say? What did you think of this movie? I'm curious to see what you thought.
I actually really enjoyed this movie, as sad as it was.
Yeah. I thought it was a good movie. I kind of watched it late last night. I kind of wish I had watched it at a different time because I found myself
like
struggling.
6 a.m. like me?
No, like so I started it at 11:30, but I kind of found it difficult to kind of keep track of what was going on and pay attention.
Yeah.
Not to any fault of the movie. It was my fault for doing it at a terrible time. I watched Small Soldiers in the morning. I should have switched them. I should have watched The Innocents in the morning and then Small Soldiers.
I watched this one first and then I watched Small Soldiers just so I can go into this podcast not being super sad.
But I really, this really explored the complexity of pregnant nuns, I guess. There's no better way to put it.
No, I guess that's the best way you could put it.
Yeah.
The convent, obviously. What would happen if the nuns had got pregnant? What would happen if a French doctor would help these said people? Just there's a lot of different things it really explores here. Yeah. And I personally loved the movie for how much it actually explored.
Yeah. It's kind of one thing I didn't even think about was how to a lot of nuns, probably more so back then than now, back in the 40s, a lot of nuns wouldn't even want themselves to be examined by a doctor in their, sexual organs just because there's, they think that's breaking their chastity vows.
Yeah, nuns aren't supposed to be seen through, underneath the clothing and stuff like that.
So that was and it was kind of frustrating at times because you're like, just let her examine you. She's a doctor, she's there to help you. But then at the same time, I'm like, oh right, they took vows of chastity, and it's a little more complex than just letting a doctor.
It's religion versus science at that point.
Yeah, religion versus science, and it's also, even though these women were raped, they still feel like great shame, even though it's not their fault at all. Just because the times that it takes place in, they thought that it was their fault, even though, absolutely not their fault. It's just something that happened. And another thing that I thought very interesting was the abbesse, I guess is the mother, the main nun kind of takes the babies and just puts them by the side of the road in hopes that they will be picked up.
Yeah.
That really kind of, I did not even think that was a thing that nuns would do. It was kind of just showed you more how complex the situation was. It wasn't, they in no way wanted word to get out that.
Yeah, they didn't want their convent to get shut down. So what she does is she got rid of this child. She put it at this cross on the side of the road and hoped that God would find its way for it.
Yeah.
And hopefully somebody would pick it up or something like that.
From what I noticed or gathered, I think that happened a couple of times too. They only showed one, but I feel like they hinted that it happened multiple times. And yeah,
I think it was only once.
Yeah, it might have only been once, but either way, it was still.
It was a heavy burden to make you think that she would do it again.
Now, Sister Sophia, who's the one that ends up killing herself because her child is taken away or whatever, was she also the one that said she struggled with her faith?
No.
Okay.
And forgive me because a lot of these names kind of got mixed up, and since they were all wearing hoods, kind of mixed me up a little too.
Yeah, there's probably two that are discernible from the rest of them, and then the rest kind of just blend in.
I think, and forgive me if I'm wrong, it was either Teresa or Irina that it was definitely Irina. I think it was the one that was helping Matilda around.
Oh, Joanna Kulig's character.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. But the thing that kind of...
Dude, I don't even know. There's so many different pictures. They all look the same. No offense to these French ladies.
Well, I mean, their faces are...
No, this is it. This is her. Maria.
Maria.
She wrote her the letter at the end, too.
That's right. She's the one that lost her faith, essentially. I kind of wish they explored that more, because in Catholicism... suicide is the only sin that is automatically sending you to hell, because you can't you kill yourself before you can atone for your sin. This is just Catholicism. I'm not saying that if you kill yourself you're going to hell. I personally don't believe in hell, but it's I wish they kind of explored that more, because they kind of, while they did kind of show the respect that she deserved afterwards.
Yeah.
Knowing that growing up in a religious household where my dad grew up Catholic, and we weren't Catholic, but he grew up Catholic. I know that that is a major belief in Catholicism. So I kind of wish they explored that a little bit more, but at the same time, it's also not a huge part of the story, so I understand why they didn't. I just think it would have been interesting to see how it was handled at that point, and how it was, taken by the rest of the convent. And if I personally think in this time, in that place, they probably would have mourned her differently at that point. But yeah, I just that's just my personal opinion. I wish it was explored more.
I guess we'll go into a little bit of controversial talk here. I am not really a religious person at all. Person, different aspect of human being. I'm not a religious person at all. I don't mind watching films like these about religion and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed all the different looks at how some of these nuns, like what their view on the whole thing is, because each nun, they either rejected wanting to have a child, rejecting seeing the child or anything like that, or there was one who gave up being a nun because this is her child. This child deserves a mother, so she gave up being a nun. There was nuns that were questioning their faith, and then there was nuns who were straight up being a full-blown nun. Straight up. Have you ever heard of Providence?
Yeah.
So I really enjoy things like that instead of just being like a one-aspect religion type of person.
Yeah, honestly, my biggest problem with religious movies, kind of like God's Not Dead, they're very one-sided.
Yeah.
And my whole thing is, like, if you are not questioning a person's faith in a movie, what are you afraid of? Like, if you really believe this, is your faith so weak that you can't take someone else questioning their faith?
Yeah.
And that's honestly the biggest problem I have with religious movies, is that the only person questioning their faith or lack thereof are like the atheists, and they're like, oh, I don't believe in God, but this thing's making me question if I believe in God or not. It's like,
yeah.
But you're absolutely right. In this, there's a whole bunch of different angles. There's people that straight up end the movie not believing in God. There's people that, think they were being punished by God. There's people that are just like, hey, God still exists, but this is not on us. This is on, or God. This is on strictly the Russian people. There's people who are just like, you nailed it on the head. It really makes it more interesting, and I just not that this is a religious movie in any sense, but I feel like religious movies could learn.
Yeah, it's a huge aspect on it.
Yeah,
and in the case for Sister Sophia, I didn't mind that they didn't go into more depth. It would have been nice to see it, but they still had so many other nuns in the film to still check out, and they had a whole nother. It was a really good movie, and they did very, very well on just even jumping into that type instead of just being like a one aspect.
I think the thing that I with the Sister Sophia, I just kind of. I know it probably would not have fit this movie. I just think it'd be an interesting subject in general to tackle.
No doubt.
But yeah, it's a thing that I just wish happened, but at the same time, I understand completely why they didn't explore it more.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone in this is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Lou Delaga, who I'm probably butchering her last name. She plays Mathilde, who is the French Red Cross nurse.
Yeah, she's the doctor that helps these.
She's the central point of the entire story, and her kind of, you could see her befriending all of these nuns and just kind of feeling what they're feeling, and in a sense, maybe not as terribly, but like also being in a similar situation with Russian soldiers at one point who, sexually assault her.
Very, very rough scene. If it would have went any further, I mean, it was rough already. I'm like, ooh, I'm about to watch this happen, and then luckily it was like, whew.
Yeah.
Whew. But if it went any further than that, this movie would have been real rough.
Sexual assault and rape scenes are way harder for me to watch than murder scenes. Maybe just because, like,
it's because the person lives with it after that, the character or whatever.
That, and also I can. Knowing how movies are made, I can know how they simulated someone dying in a movie. But like, as far as like grabbing a woman in any way, they have to do that. I mean, obviously there's no actual sexual assault, but
it's acting, but still
it's acting, but it's
good acting.
Yeah.
not hey, that's a good thing you're doing. That's just they're doing their job.
Yeah, it's very hard to watch.
Another thing about the Matilda character is that she's doing all of this in secrecy. So she has just as much to lose as the convent does. Mm-hmm. If anybody finds out that she's either helping them or that these nuns are having children and stuff like that, she's got just as much to lose as anybody else in this movie does.
Yeah.
And the fact that she keeps helping them regardless of that fact is what makes her such a great character.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I don't know if it was clear to you, but the character of Samuel, who is the doctor at the Red Cross.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up that he was Jewish at first.
Not until he said it, no.
Yeah. So when he said that the only Polish people he liked were the ones in the ghettos and they're all dead now, I was like, Jesus, dude, like, you're not even going to hide your anti-Semitism? And then I found out he was Jewish. I was like, oh, okay.
It makes sense now.
Yeah, it makes sense now. So
I mean, it's also us not really... Back then they saw somebody, they're like, you're definitely Jewish, you fucking prick.
Yeah, I don't remember them saying like that? I don't remember them saying his last name until
I don't remember that either.
Until when he goes to the convent, but if they did, I probably would have known, but I don't recall.
Yeah, when he gets to the convent, he's like, yes, I'm Jewish. I'm
yes, I'm Jewish,
baptized.
I'm going to hell. Do you want help or not?
I'm here to help you.
Yeah. But it's a solid movie. I really, kind of wish I watched it at a different time, but that's on me, not the movie.
Me too, because this at 6 a.m. is very tough to get into. Also, but it wasn't this movie wasn't one that I was just like, all right, maybe I'll be on my phone and kind of twiddle around like I kind of did with Small Soldiers. But I had already seen that movie. With this one, I was kind of watching the whole time, just understanding the story, understanding the characters, understanding everything that was going on, and I really enjoyed it. It brought so much to the table. Especially, I really enjoy World War II stuff as well. So it's nice seeing the sideline stuff of World War II and what are some of the effects that happened, like soldiers raping nuns. Not saying that's a fun thing to watch, but obviously you didn't get to see that in this movie. But it's an after effect of some of the things that happened from the war, and tragic that I guarantee still happens today.
Yeah. What a world we live in.
Right? People are shit.
C'est la première fois que je fais ça.
Je peux vous faire envoyer une sage-femme de la Croix-Rouge polonaise. Vous faites ça, c'est la fin de notre couvent.
Nie potrafię pogodzić z moją wiarą tego wydarzenia.
Vous n'aurez pas seulement besoin de l'aide de Dieu.
Tous les jours, je revis tout ce qui s'est passé. Tous les jours.
Mais aucune n'a perdu la foi.
Ne nous abandonnez pas, s'il vous plaît.
Je suis là pour les aider, dites-moi comment m'y prendre.
Błagam, proszę mi powiedzieć prawdę.
Zrobiłam to, co należało.
Je vais devoir te protéger notre secret.
We have discussed Small Soldiers and The Innocents, and now we come to the judgment. Glenjamin Button the Third.
Yes.
What is your judgment for Small Soldiers?
Actually, I'll be honest. I didn't think about putting it on a shelf. I was just like, let's watch it. And that's what kind of makes it more tough, because I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is going to be in high regards to a childhood memory. But do we hold a shelf boy for just a childhood memory? That's the key question here, isn't it?
That is the key question.
It did, in my opinion, hold up. It was funny. The writing wasn't fantastic. The soundtrack, it was pretty 90s, even though it had some 80s stuff. It was pretty generic. The acting was okay, from at least the child actors. I don't know. I'll be honest. Do I put a childhood memory on a shelf boy?
Do you want me to chime in with my thoughts before you decide?
Give me a little bit of sugar, honey.
I won't make my decision until I hear your decision. But as far as nostalgia goes, I feel like there are probably 90s movies that you and I both hold in higher regard than Small Soldiers. While I do enjoy this movie, it's kind of more of an afterthought to like this Jumanji or Space Jam.
True.
And while it is better than I expected, it was a fun movie. Yeah, those are my thoughts, and that kind of made it more clear what I'm leaning, but I just want to throw that out there.
I think you're right. I think that voice acting was great as well, but overall, it's just a fun movie to just throw back to.
Yeah.
But that's really it. I don't really hold it in higher regard other than that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a fantastic choice. I've missed watching the movie. But as far as this wouldn't be one that I'd be like, fucking Small Soldiers. God damn. Let's watch that again next week.
Yeah. I'm totally on board with you. I think as fun as it is, as better that it holds up than we thought it would, I'm saying no to the shelf boy for this one.
Sorry, shelf boy soldier.
Sorry, shelf boy, Small Soldiers. So,
still a fantastic movie, though.
Let's talk about the much happier movie, The Innocents.
The bright and shiny The Innocents.
The bright and shiny,
not to be confused with The Innocents,
not depressing
Netflix
French
original
movie.
Show.
The Innocents, yeah. I wish I had pointed that out last time. There's a show that's called The Innocents that.
Well, I didn't even see it. Like when I pointed out, or when I typed in The Innocents on Google, it popped up the movie and had no anything about the show until after you said something about it today or last night.
But yeah, this movie, I definitely want to give it a rewatch when I'm in more of a mindset to watch it. But, until we started talking about it, I was probably going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
But, kind of talking about it definitely made me realize how much of interest is actually here and how well made it is. Eventually, I do want to have an episode maybe on our 1-year anniversary going through all the Shelf Boys and see if they stay on, going through all the ones that did not get on the shelf and see if they go on.
Or at least get honoraries.
So I definitely want to rewatch this before then. But for now, I think it is a Shelf Boy.
I will agree with you. And that is mainly to the fact that I said before, I'm not really a religious person. Persian. I grew up being raised Christian. I can't fucking speak about religion today, apparently. Christian Persians. But movies like this, it really shows you a whole different side of the story than, like you said, God's not dead or anything like that.
Yeah. Not that they're comparable in any way.
All of these people were human beings. God was like, there was a religion in this thing, not like a forced aspect.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed all the characters, stories, what they had to lose and stuff like that. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah.
Even though I had to read it.
It was a good examination of how people react regarding their faith after a tragedy has happened to them, which was fantastic and very interesting to watch. So, if I'm not mistaken, does that mean The Innocents is a Shelf Boy?
It is a Shelf Boy.
So, Small Soldiers does not make it onto the shelf. The Innocents does make it on the shelf. And we got a special episode for you guys next week. Glenn is going to take over and pick both movies. And I believe he has a double feature.
I do. So, we didn't really dwell into action too much. So I feel the best way to do that is to watch 2 of the best action movies to date. I won't say the best. They're up there, boys and ladies. They're up there. The Raid Redemption and The Raid 2. Some of the most badass fighting movies anybody in the world has ever seen.
Some of the greatest cinematography too.
And The Raid Redemption, made in 2011, is directed by Gareth Evans. Stars. Oh, God damn it, why did I do this to myself? Written by Gareth Evans as well. Stars Iko Uwais, Nada George, and Ray Sahetepi. And so that's the first one. That's Raid Redemption.
What was that about mispronouncing names?
Suck a lollipop, son of a bitch. Why can't I look at this one? It's not letting me click on that. All right, well, the Raid 2 is basically everybody else in the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. Same people. I'm really excited to rewatch these movies. Where can we watch them if they're not like me and own them both on Blu-ray?
The Raid Redemption is on Netflix. The Raid 2, however, is not. So the Raid 2 will have to be on Amazon Prime to rent for $3, Vudu, iTunes, all that jazz. It has to be rented. So unfortunately, I'm making you boys and ladies spend money for the second movie, but the first one is on Netflix if you don't already own it.
Fantastic. I'm excited to talk about these movies.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'll for the week after that, I'll try to pick a double feature myself, my Shelf Boy. But that will do it for this week. As always, you can follow us on Instagram, Keystone_film_review. On Facebook, we are Keystone Film Review. On Letterboxd, I am Mike KFR.
And I am Glenn KFR.
And that will do it for this week. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.